I am so grateful, Janelle, that you are carving out space and encouraging the president-elect. Oh, that hurts for me to say. To stand on the sidelines and let the process of identifying leaders in his party, leaders in the Senate actually come to fruition in ways that he hasn't done that in the past. I think as somebody who's been so eager to see more progressive policies take center stage in this country, I remember vividly, I think it was a Friday or Saturday night, watching them pick the previous speaker and how anxious and agitated and charged I was, and I was watching it from bed. And so I really do hope that voices like yours continue to get even louder as a suggestion to this administration that we need to let protocol be protocol for protocol's sake.
Okay. And as for the regrouping that's happening in your party, Jenna, would that have made a difference if Biden had stepped aside earlier?
I don't know. I feel like some of the Pod Save America content is helpful, but it is still on the side of the sandbox. This election just proves a gut feeling that I had that made me feel very uncomfortable, which is there are two very different countries living in parallel today. I was canvassing daily for the past couple of months in Pennsylvania, and I was really taken aback by how different each home was in terms of their vibe, their experience, their takeaway about what was happening around them. But one of the points that was made loud and clear is that even if you see job numbers rise, if you see inflation go down, if you are uncomfortable with the amount of money that's in your bank account and believe there should be more or believe you deserve there should be more, it's hard to not hear the promises of somebody else who says, I'm going to give you more money.
Right. Well, and both sides we're saying that for sure. That's sort of what happens in campaigns, for sure. Janelle, let's switch gears and talk about Trump and the future of what his administration is going to look like. We're learning that he's not going to be inviting former Ambassador Nikki Haley, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to join his upcoming administration. Is he putting Haley aside because of her previous criticisms of him? She also then just recently said he's not a perfect candidate. She had an op-ed, he's not a perfect candidate, but he's my choice. What do you make of her not being part of it?
You know, I think it's more of an overall issue than a personal issue. I think what he saw in his previous administration was that there were people that were there who weren't necessarily there for the right reasons. And I think he learned from that. So when it comes to bringing people close to him, I think he wants to bring people close in that he feels are going to run with him and run on the same page as him. I don't want to make it bigger than what it is. I thought his message was a bit gracious as to why, or at least alerting us that he was not going to bring them in. However, we have to point to the fact that, there are people that I'm extremely excited about. I'm extremely excited about RFK. I hope he really does bring him in. I hope that they reorganize our USDA, our FDA, and so forth. So I'm hoping that this is not as personal, other than the fact that he really wants people around him that is on the same page.
Jenna, you talked a lot about the division that's in America, and that's just without a doubt. We've got Thanksgiving coming up, and a lot of families are going to be thinking about how they're going to get along even at the dinner table there. But what we need to do, I think, as Americans is focus on the fact that we live in what I think is the best country in the world, and there are a lot of things that unite us and don't divide us. In fact, Kamala Harris, your candidate, talked a lot about this. So in this meeting that's going to happen on Wednesday between Trump and Biden, what do you hope happens to help heal the nation?
Jacqueline, your previous colleague was saying how much you would like to be a fly on the wall in that room. And I was thinking that is the absolute last place that I would want to be, because I imagine it is just going to be so overwhelmingly charged. It feels inauthentic for us to go through an election cycle where adults were being so callous and unkind, like crassly raw, unkind, dangerously unkind to each other, and then show up on the line at the end of the Little League game and act as if it was good game, guys. And so it feels to me like it's inauthentic, but I do believe, based on how I've seen President Biden behave over his decades of service is that he will center the transition of power, these kinds of rituals, as sacred, and he will make sure it's above board in terms of its mutual respect.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.